Hello and welcome to this live interaction with me, Ashish Parekh. And when we are talking about COVID-19 cases, well, in India, the COVID-19 cases have neared the 6 million mark on Sunday, with 88,600 people getting infected with the virus in the past 24 hours. And in fact, as many as 94,503 people have died due to the virus so far. In fact, COVID-19 cases in West Bengal in particular have crossed over 2,44,240, and also the death toll now currently stands at 4,721. But amid all of this, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has decided to allow cinemas to function in the state in order to cease restrictions ahead of the Durga Puja festival. In fact, not just theatres but also other cultural congregations like plays, music, dance and magic shows will also be allowed from 1st October, albeit a ceiling of 50 people. That's the only guideline that has been mentioned by the government. In fact, with this particular announcement, Bengal becomes the first state in the country to restart theatre operations. While cinema, of course, is one of the most important places of outing for a lot of people in India, they have been closed ever since the lockdown restrictions were imposed. And in fact, ever since then, multiplex and single screen owners have carried on social media campaigns all this month to protest the denial of reopening permits to given to them. In fact, they are saying that various sectors like aviation and malls have already opened it, and it is unfair to keep the industry out, especially when there are about 20 lakh jobs at stake, and that is what they have argued. In fact, to speak more about this development, I have with me infectious disease expert Dr. Trupti from Mumbai joining us live for this live discussion. First of all, Dr. Trupti, we of course are the largest filmmaking nation in the world, and the film industry offers jobs to several thousands of people. But there are, with these sort of restrictions, there are bound to be economic implications. Having said that, do any of these reasons justify the reopening of cinema halls, given the fact that we are seeing a constant rise in cases and over 80,000 cases are being reported every single day? Do you think this is justified?
So one thing that we all need to understand is that Corona is not going anywhere soon. So we will really have to learn to live with it.
Absolutely.
And whatever we keep shut, now we will have to start thinking about the risk-benefit ratio. What is the risk of opening this place versus the benefit of opening it?
Yeah.
And we do understand that having theaters closed has really impacted economy, be it Bollywood, Tollywood, and also a lot of employment in a lot of sectors related to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time that every state is going to start opening up theaters, obviously with the restrictions like Bengal did.
Yeah. No, but with all of these things into mind, you said you spoke about risk-benefit ratio as well. Yes, we've got OTP platforms also coming in, and it's not like movie makers, producers are suffering. They are finding an alternative route to that. But having said that, opening theaters is something that is a direct risk factor. Yes, several sectors have been opened, and there can be a debate about all of that as well. But given the fact that movie theaters, you have closed doors, and you have a lot of discussion about possible air transmission and droplet transmission and all of these things, there are very high chances of the spread of virus in this particular scenario. And when someone talks about movies, people are still making movies, people are still releasing movies on various platforms. So do you think, given the fact that there is such a the entire theater circuit, the entire atmosphere is very conducive to the spread of COVID-19, do you think that should be exempted for some time now?
So one thing that we need to understand is that, if we don't open it now, then when are we going to open it? So it's like I said, nothing is going to change in the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So either we just think that let's keep it closed until the vaccines come, which means it might be the end of theaters for that matter. But more importantly is to understand that once they open up, what are the most safe precautions that people need to take when they start going to theaters.
Yeah.
So there are restrictions on the number, like only 50 or lesser people, and there will be social distancing. So there will be seats or maybe rows of seats that will be left empty between people.
Yeah.
But that's only in the theater. What we also need to understand is avoiding overcrowding that happens outside the theater, be it the cafeteria or be it the restrooms or the queues.
Exactly.
So those are all things that people will have to understand, and maintain social distancing at those points. And people who are at high risk of complicated infections, elderly, or people who have uncontrolled diabetes or a kidney disease, these are people who definitely need to stay at home and not visit theaters.
Yeah. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just talking about the entire theater setup. We were talking about all the guidelines and all the things we need to do to make sure that there is no spread of virus. So let's imagine a theater setup. What are the possible ways of contamination or infection in a theater? Because you have a lot of people touching surfaces, you have a lot of people. It's closed doors again, and like you mentioned, cafeterias as well. So what are the possible sources of infection in a theater? Not just in the theater, but also the ambience, the surrounding of the theater.
So the most important source of infection is going to be droplets. So whether they're released by coughing, sneezing, eating. So what will have to be the most important thing is everyone in the theater needs to be masked at all times.
Yeah.
So it's not that once the movie begins, they can take their masks off. I think people will have to be very responsible with these norms, that they will have to be masked at all times. And if everyone follows masking very religiously, it will bring down the risk of infections to anyone in a considerable way.
Yeah. And
the other things will remain, like at the cafeteria or in the restrooms will be social distancing and very strict hand hygiene.
Yes.
So before you touch your face, your hands have to be sanitized or washed with soap and water.
Yes. We've been talking about all of these things, the possible sources of contamination, and also how to stay safe from all of this, but all in all, putting all of these things into context, and also given the fact that, yes, our, in case you've noticed, our 7-day average has declined over the past 9 days, which could possibly mean that we're getting down from a particular peak, which was achieved on September 17 at around 93,000 cases. Now, that is one aspect of it, but also the other aspect is that there have been multiple peaks in various countries, but that does not even rule out the fact that, the virus is going away or we are safe at this point in time. So a lot of people, you believe, in India would rush to the theaters at this point in time. So from the government, what can the government do? What could be your advice as an expert to the authorities or the people there present over there? What are the restrictions that they can put forward? Because of course, after a point when there is overcrowding, there's little that anyone present there can do. So what are the sort of measures that can be put before people even start coming, so that these guidelines that you're mentioning are also followed?
So the most important thing will be restricting crowds. It's going to be very easy to do that in theaters because tickets are given.
Yeah.
It will be very tricky in other social gatherings, like in magic shows, like they said, or with the festivities coming up and people gathering at the puja. Those will be the tricky things where they will have to be very, very strict about restricting crowds. And most importantly, I think we will have to start appealing to people. It's not just the government's job to get this under control. I think as citizens, we will have to be very, very careful and more responsible, not just staying at home as much as you can, but if you step out, following all the main precautions.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Trupti, for joining us on this live interaction. Yes, like Dr. Trupti rightly mentioned, it is not just the government's responsibility. Yes, you can debate whether government is playing with fire or they are taking a chance by letting people come to theaters. But having said that, it is all in your hands. It depends on how, whether or not you follow the guidelines. Yes, there are going to be some standard operating protocols in place. Do you follow them or do you flout them? And your safety, your family's safety depends on that. So do let us know what you guys think about this particular live interaction. And also do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News9 Digital. Thanks for watching.